Hey there, it's me Eden. Welcome to Crossdressing Adventure Stories. Today I'm going to share with you cross-dressing adventure stories called Office Colleague Caught Me in Airport, Part 1. So, if you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and be a part of our inclusive community. Martin was on the plane on the way to Amsterdam. He was away on business again, as so often in the last few weeks. Since he was traveling alone again, Martin took the opportunity and pursued his passion. He traveled as Martina. Since separating from his wife about a year ago, he's lived out these transformations as often as possible. Before that he had done it secretly from time to time, but at the time he couldn't concern himself with making the transformation as perfect as possible. On previous excursions he had always been recognizable as a man in women's clothing. In the meantime, in addition to various makeup tutorials on the internet, he had also attended a number of makeup seminars for transvestites and claimed to have mastered it to some extent. Today he wore a dark blue dress, a beige blazer and matching pumps. He loved to appear elegant, both as a man and especially as a woman. As so often, no one around him took notice, which was certainly also due to his not particularly outstanding size. With just over 1.70 meters and a very slim figure, he was in no way conspicuous. In the years since the split, Martin had also let his hair grow and adopted a more feminine basic hairstyle. In the male mode of his normal life, he had developed a styling that appeared fashionably androgynous. However, as soon as he transformed into Martina, he could style his hair into a cheeky hairstyle. Of course, he constantly freed his body from any superfluous hair, and also painted nails were now standard for him as a man. He loved to appear elegant, both as a man and especially as a woman. During the short flight, Martina worked on her tablet. She was just playing to pass the time. Her seat neighbor had fallen asleep shortly before takeoff, so she didn't have to worry about forced conversation. When the stewardess brought the small refreshment, there was a small note stuck between the snack and the packed water cup. Perfect match, Mr. Seymour. I wouldn't guess you're a man if I didn't know from the passengers list. Congratulations. Would like to stay in touch, WhatsApp. Martina also found a Dutch cell phone number, which made her smile. She took a piece of paper and a pen out of her purse, wrote down her cell phone number and thanked her for the compliment. When the flight attendant came back and collected the remains of the snack, Martina smiled at her and handed her short note. A short, breathy thank you was the answer. Arrived in Amsterdam, Martina looked for the gate for her connecting flight. She had a 2.5-hour layover and strolled through the terminal. She strolled through the various shops and also found one or the other nice piece, but couldn't bring herself to buy it. Eventually she stopped by Starbucks and wanted to kill time. As soon as she sat down at a table with her cappuccino, she spotted a colleague from her department. Martina was shocked, because despite her otherwise rather androgynous styling, her colleagues only knew her as a man. And of course, her colleague Astrid also came to Starbucks. When she was looking for a seat with her coffee, her eyes fell on Martina. She hesitated briefly, but then approached Martina purposefully. Martin, is that you? Martina took a deep breath. Denial was futile after all. Yes. I hope you don't have a problem with that. And if you don't continue to wear it in the office, I would be very grateful to you. Astrid smiled warmly. She sat down next to Martina, first took a sip of coffee and then looked at her calmly. You can count on me. I don't think there's anyone in our team who wouldn't accept that, but I'm not so sure about the colleagues around me. Martina was relieved. I have to admit, you look stunning. At first, I wasn't sure if it really was you, I have to admit, Astrid continued, which made Martina smile. Do you want to live permanently as a woman someday? Astrid then asked. Martina immediately shook her head. No, I was born a man and I want to stay that way. But I love being able to represent both. At some point in my youth, my girlfriend at the time put me in a dress, tights and pumps, and I really enjoyed the feeling of feeling the wind on my legs and moving like a woman in the pumps. Since then, it hasn't let me go. But that's not why I'm going to have my surgery done right away. Astrid seemed relieved, which Martina was happy to acknowledge. She found Astrid extremely attractive. Where are you flying to? Astrid continued the conversation casually. I have to go to Helsinki for a proposal presentation. And you? Martina answered. I'm flying back from Stockholm from a review meeting, Astrid replied, but I've got over an hour to hang out here now. Martina smiled and nodded. I'll be flying on in just over an hour. So, they talked about this and that, whereby the conversation always revolved around so-called women's topics, fashion, styling and related tips like between girlfriends. When Martina said, "Goodbye," Astrid hugged her warmly. The hug was more intense than only a girlfriend's would say. "Goodbye," Astrid whispered in Martina's ear, I would like to meet you like this when we are back, my sweet. Both the hug and Astrid's statement hit Martina like a bolt from the blue. She couldn't reply to that, which Astrid didn't seem to expect either. Martina said, "Goodbye," again and made her way to her gate. Totally agitated inside, she almost walked past the gate. At the last moment she realized that she had already reached her destination and was looking for a seat for the last few minutes before boarding. As soon as she sat down, her thoughts circled around Astrid. On the one hand, Martina was incredibly relieved that someone now knew about her second side and that she could share it. On the other hand, she got the feeling that Astrid had something else in mind. Martina lost herself in a crush on her colleague and imagined what it would be like to be out and about with Astrid en femme. Daydreaming, she sat there and slowly excitement germinated in her. She literally saw in her mind how she peeled Astrid out of her business suit, slowly opened the silk blouse and then caressed the beautiful, small breasts that appeared naked underneath. Just before Martina could kiss Astrid in the dream, she was brought back to reality by the boarding announcement. A little disappointed, but also incredibly excited, Martina gathered her things and stood in line. Once again, she was amused at herself because at the first boarding announcement, she jumped up like so many and got in line. Every time she was annoyed again shortly afterwards that she didn't stay seated, because now she had to wait a few minutes until she actually went to the plane. But the thoughts of Astrid and what it would be like to kiss her quickly came back. She imagined it wonderful to feel Astrid's tender lips and to hold her body against her. Martina's well-hidden masculinity tensed so that it hurt her a little. She tried to push her erotic thoughts aside, which wasn't easy at all. Then Martina's phone pinged and a WhatsApp message from Astrid caught her attention. That's all for today. Please subscribe and share your feedback, it really means a lot to me.